For the longest time, I could never figure out how Zergs would get by just scouting with Overlords. I was like, what? That's crazy. Terran sent out an SCV and Protoss sent out a probe, so why can't I send out a drone, But
Yeah.
eventually I got the hang of it and I figured, yeah, it's fine. But yeah, speaking of cheeky builds, it looks like Classic is going to go ahead and put down a proxy pylon right in the middle of the map.
Yeah, this is gonna get unscouted thus far. There we have it. The Stargate is on its way now. TeaDragon, I want to ask you to make a prediction. Is it going to be Oracle or is it going to be Void Race?
Oh, it's definitely going to be an Oracle. It has to be. I mean, I love Void Rays, right? They're very viable. But the thing is, if you have an Oracle building out of a Stargate that's that close, it's going to be able to zap away at so many SCVs. I think that the return on investment is going to be much better for an Oracle. But that's just my prediction. What do you think?
You know what? That's not too bad of a prediction. It is pretty close, but I could very well see him make a Void Array, but maybe with no shield batteries. Yeah, okay, it looks like it will be Oracle. So this has yet to been scouted, right? Yeah, there's no vision on that Stargate there.
Yeah, at the same time, Classic does not see
Oh,
that beyond. Oh, those Marauders. Did they see the starport? Yeah, they did. They know what's up. Okay, but this is actually going to give Classic a little bit more time to prepare at home since these Marauders actually do have concussive shells. And that was something that Classic did not scout himself. But look at this. This Oracle is going to go uncontested for the time being. It's going to be able to zap away at these SCVs. This is an interesting dilemma, I would say, right? The Marauders obviously are going to make short work of that Stargate, excuse me. But that Oracle was able to zap away at 5 SCVs. And it looks like Classic is confident enough to just put down a third Nexus.
yeah, I think Classic couldn't have asked for a better opening from Byun, because Byun actually went for all the units that doesn't shoot up into air, and unfortunately he was granted or greeted with a Oracle in his base and couldn't do absolutely anything. All he could do was just run his SCV around at best. And so yeah, it does lose 5 SCVs there. Oracle can still come in and get some additional damage. But I'm surprised that Cyclone isn't in the mineral line. He really needs to just babysit in the mineral line and make sure that Oracle doesn't come in again.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, when you have an air unit of any sort that has any sort of health left, you better count on it being back sometime soon. But it looks like it's going to be a Twilight follow-up for our Blue Protoss. Alright, here we go. This Oracle is going to come back in. Look at that. The Cyclone is just a little bit out of position. The Oracle is going to take care of 2 SCVs. But the Cyclone actually is going to get the kill. It does cost beyond 1 extra scan just to guarantee it. But yeah, not bad for the Cyclone, I would say. We do see that the Protoss is up 15 workers.
Yeah, that is actually quite huge. I mean, normally Protoss are tends to be ahead in the worker count at this point in the game, but not by this much. So
Right.
Byun is gonna really have to make this attack count.
Yeah, this is an interesting dilemma. We see Classic Stalkers are caught out in the middle of the map because they were scouting, and ideally they would have Blink and be able to stall this push for a little bit. But combine the fact that they don't have Blink along with the fact that the Marauders already have Concussive Shell, this fight is going to be pretty tough for our Blue Protoss. Yeah, it looks like that force field was, pretty decent, but funnily enough, it did go on top of the siege tank. Okay, another good force field does go down, preventing those reinforcing units from coming up. Shield battery overcharge is popped, but look at this. The Big Daddy Immortal is out and about. SCVs are on the table. When did the SCVs get here? I just noticed that.
Yeah, looks like Byun pulling the boys to make this attack just a bit more lethal. Oh man, that Immortal is just like by itself so vulnerable. Forcing
Yeah.
Classic to pull the probe as well. Yeah, if these bunkers get up, it's gonna get even exponentially more difficult to break out of this contain.
Yeah, definitely. That already cost the Protoss 9 workers. So already the worker count has been evened up. And look at this. This Bioforce is not stopping anytime soon. Now, we do see the 2 Immortals are going to circle down to the right. All the tanks have been picked off, but look at that. The first bunker is going to complete. And this is getting really, really dicey for our Protoss.
Yeah, I mean, right now he's just back into the corner. This third base is more than likely gonna get sniped down. And that means that Byun, even if he lost all his SCVs, still is gonna come out on top. And yeah, this attack definitely paid for itself.
Yeah, Stim is just about to finish. At the same time, Stalkers do get their blink, so we're gonna see a bit more micro potential from both sides. But it looks like these 3 Immortals and these Stalkers are going to be enough to push back the Terran for the time being. And luckily enough, Classic was able to save his third, so he will be chronoing out 3 probes at a time.
I'm a little bit surprised that Classic is still giving chase to this force, because if he's not careful, I mean, these Marauders can, you know, attack and put on the concussive shells, and it makes it hard and difficult to retreat. So Classic, a little bit lucky that Byun actually did not turn around completely. But yeah, this is going to be 4 Immortals, so at the very least I think he should be, you know, kind of safe for the next minute or two, as both players looks to be kind of transitioning out of this mid phase.
Yeah, it's a little bit awkward for Byun because I do like this move a lot. He has been producing SCVs just constantly, right? So he is oversaturated, but of course, his third command center just finished, and he's going to be able to get a full mineral line up and running by the time that command center lands. But yeah, this is, you know, it's pretty interesting. I have a feeling that Classic did not plan on going into an Immortal charge lock kind of composition, but it seems like he was kind of forced into it because of that early push. And it looks like Byun, he's kind of angling for another push, right? He's got his +1/+1 infantry about to finish, while his opponent is going to have charge by the time they engage. But that Colossus is just going to be 1 Colossus. I don't think that's enough splash for all this bio.
Yeah, he's going to have to be careful not to have his Colossus a bit forward where it can get stimmed and sniped down. So yeah, he's gonna have to micro his Colossus really well. Like 1 Colossus, not the scariest. 2 Colossus, not the scariest as well, but it's starting to get there. I think 3 Colossus is usually the optimal amount, and then of course any more than that is just more firepower. But
yeah, definitely. All right, it looks like the first scan is gonna go down. This Bioforce is just gonna poke away at the high ground pylons for now. But look at that, a second force is going to stem on into the 3rd base location, ignoring the 4th for the time being. Of course, the 4th was not scouted just yet, but yeah, this is getting in some pretty decent damage, and of course the medevacs are going to be able to pick up and drop off at the 4th location, as I just mentioned, and they are going to force the cancel on it. So it looks like Classic is being pulled apart just a little bit here in the mid-game. We do see 3 ghosts at a time being produced, and I feel like the longer that Classic goes without a 4th base, the more critical it is, and the better Byun finds himself in a position in this game.
yeah, for sure. And I gotta say, I would like to see Classic take the triangular base as his 4th base instead of the 11 o'clock one, because his army is mainly in Colossus Force, and they're not the most mobile units. So I think it would be serve him better to place his 4th at the triangular base so that he can kind of bounce from the 4th into the natural a bit more easier, and then his other force from the 3rd to the natural. So you know, it makes defending a bit more easier on his part. But he's gonna still elect to go for the 11 o'clock one, looking to attack and put on some pressure, but there's just so much on the ground, and he does have the higher ground, and as we know from the Star Wars movie, you can win as long as you had the higher ground.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Ooh, one of mine is going to take a pot shot at the War Prism, but I do like this angle from Classic. Of course, with such a zealot-heavy army, you just need a sheer, like, there's a critical mass of surface area that you absolutely need, right? So here we go. Colossi are going to come in. 2 of them are hallucinated, in fact. Huge EMPs are going down, blanketing all of the Stalkers, all of the Zealots. Bio is still standing strong. I'm not sure if this is enough for Classic to really break through. Looks like the first real Colossus is going to be taken down. Second Colossus is going to be picked up by the Warp Prism. But look at that. There is nothing left. Warp Prism does get killed with the Colossus in it. All of the Protoss is cleaned up, and that is pretty much it for this fight. Byun defends decisively.
Yeah, that was kind of a risky play. I did like the hallucinated Colossus actually though, kind of allowing the Vikings to kind of attack the fake Colossus while the real Colossus, you know, start shooting at those lasers. But in the end, Classic did have a better kind of surface area, and also he had the command center in the middle of the fight, so those charge lot really couldn't get on top of the battle force. And so in the end, I think Byun should be happy with that fight.
Yeah, it looks like it is Byun's turn to start picking a fight. Obviously, he knows by this point that he has reset the high-tech units of his opponent, right? Taking down all the Colossi, all the Archons as well. Funnily enough, we don't see... I don't think that Classic has Storm. Yeah, Classic does not have Storm. Opting instead to use the Archons rather than the High Templar by themselves. I'm not sure if that's a good thing in this scenario, because obviously we do already see the EMPs out on the field, the Ghosts on the field, and of course, since Archons are majority shields, pretty much all shields, they are very, very vulnerable to EMPs.
Yeah, those EMPs are really deadly to Immortals and those Archons, so Classic might want to go ahead and do a little bit of a pre-spread before engaging, but it's quite difficult sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. Now, granted, High Templar are also vulnerable to EMPs, but usually players of this caliber will have them loaded up into a Warp Prism, and then you've got, you know, Storm Micro, that kind of thing. So it's a little bit less risky if you know what you're doing, but look at that, speaking of risk, huge EMP blanketing a majority of that army, taking down, stripping the shields off of a lot of the Stalkers, but yeah, it looks like both players are just sort of testing each other for the moment.
Yeah, they're just kind of feeling each other out right now. Both players don't want to quite engage right now. I think they're just waiting to get that 200 army, and then they're gonna engage. And then maybe you want to time it up in terms of Byun. You might want to time it up with the 3-3 because his upgrades are looking quite healthy.
Yeah, now this is a point in the game, interestingly enough, where because both players are maxed out, pretty much anything could happen, you know, depending on how the engagements go. Either player could gain the upper hand once again. So while Byun did take care of that big army in the just a few minutes ago, you know, essentially resetting Classic's army, it looks like the two are going to sort of recalibrate. Now, funnily enough, we do see a bit of a Marauder harass. Not the best against probes, but hey, I'm not one to judge. You know, I like it a lot, right? The Marauders have a lot more staying power. But it looks like on the other side of the map, Classic is going to go ahead and pull the trigger. He is trying his best to engage, pretty much like going all the way, jumping on top of that triangle-based location. A lot of SCVs are pulled. A lot of EMPs are going down as well. Vikings are out. They are going to take care of the Colossi, so is the ground going to be enough for the Protoss? I am not so sure.
Alright, looks like Byun does hold here. I mean, at the cost of 17 SCVs. But even though he lost all those SCVs, he's not actually quite too far behind still. So I feel like he's still okay. But again, once again resetted the Colossus count, which I think is going to be the most important thing. It looks like Classic is like, you know what? I'm not going to make Colossus anymore. I'm just going to switch to Disruptors. I guess it kind of complements his army because he does have a lot of Blink Stalkers, but I don't know. I feel like Blink Stalkers and Disruptors are kind of difficult to make work against a battle force.
Yeah, definitely. Although I feel like maybe Classic doesn't really feel like he has a choice given that the Vikings already cleared out his Colossi. Although we do see Liberators coming out as well. So I'd say all in all, Byun is quite far ahead. both Disruptor's abilities have already been burnt. A third one does join the field, but look at that. It's a pretty low-tier army aside from the Disruptors for our Protoss, whereas on the other hand, this Bioforce is still going strong. Very Marauder heavy, so it's going to absolutely chew through the Stalkers, the buildings, pretty much anything in its path.
Yeah, it looks like this left side top base will go down. Now the only, I would say, silver lining is that these medevacs are quite low in energy. So maybe Classic can kind of pull himself back, but I think, yeah, he's just too far behind. So he is going to go ahead and GG out, and Byun takes game number 1. Let's get this started. At the top left, we got our blue Protoss from Alpha X looking to tie up the series. Can he do it, guys? He is Classic.
And his opponent playing as the Red Terran on match point in this best of 3 series. It is Shopify Rebellion's Byun.
Alright, so we have ourselves a map on Curious Minds, and I am quite curious to see what Classic is planning with this proxy pylon. It must be I feel like, yeah, it must be that, you know, the old school, well, I wouldn't say old school, a couple of years in the making, but Parting's 2-gate opening, where he will either open up with Stalkers or Mass Adepts and try to shut down the natural of Byun. So looks like 2 gates are out, and we will see some pressure coming out of Classic quite soon.
Yeah, I like this a lot. Obviously, in the early game, in the very early game, Protoss gateway units, because they're more expensive and more supply heavy, they tend to outmatch early game Terran units. And so in that way, the Protoss is going to angle for an advantage.
Yeah, because really, like, the Terran can only open up with Marines and Reapers. And Adepts do tend to do well against both of them, and then also Stalkers, because they have better range than the Marines and the Reapers. So it's really up to Byun to scout it and then make a bunker to help defend against that. And Byun, unfortunately, will not be able to scout this until the very last moments as he scouts. Oh, no Nexus down at the natural.
Yeah, that Reaper is definitely going to sound some alarm bells back at home base, but it is actually going to go a little bit uncontested for just a little bit. Now, it will back off as it does figure, hey, there's probably going to be an Adept out and about pretty soon. That Stalker actually does get to force the cancel on the low ground command center, which is pretty big, forcing a lot of SCVs off the line as well. So this is already pretty good for Classic. Now, of course, he doesn't have the high ground vision. The Reaper will be able to take a few pot shots at it. But like you said, right, all that's really available for Byun is Reapers and Marines, neither of which do terribly well against Stalkers.
Oh, but I like this, the Adept Shade providing vision on the high ground, so Classic will momentarily be able to shoot up. And we'll see what Classic is going to transition into. It looks like a... Actually, oh, let's hold that thought. Oh, wow.
That was probably the best Widowmine hit that Byun could have asked for. Taking down a Stalker and lowering the health of the remaining 2. Looks like the Reapers are going to gun forward and shoot down the second Stalker and the third. But that was a pretty heavy trade for both players. I'm not sure how either player really feels about this. I think that Byun is just happy he's able to stay alive for a little bit longer. But look at that. We do see a proxy robo building a warp prism as well. So it looks like Classic is looking to go a little bit more all in, trying to get a little bit more damage done on the high ground of Byun.
Yeah, you know what? I really wish that Classic will go for like a mortal kind of push. Because in the old, a couple of years ago, there was this build where it was just go for like 3-gate robo and just like a mortal and warp prism, and then you just kind of catch your Terran opponent off guard and kind of break him that way. I would love to see Classic bring that back here, and I think it could actually work out really nicely, considering Byun's still stuck on one base. I mean, he's making a second base, but can't really take it with Immortals and Stalkers, stationed at the natural there.
Yeah, I like this move a lot by Classic. Now, the Vikings are a bit of a threat to the War Prism. That War Prism is going to have to back off for now. That Cyclone, I just keep imagining, if that Cyclone was able to get a lock-on onto the War Prism, this would have gone a lot differently, right? But, of course, that is not the case. War Prism is going to survive with just a little bit of health. The High Ground Command Center is going to morph into an Orbital Command, so it is safe for just a little bit, but look at that. The bunker is filled, more units are coming out, and a tank is now sieged up, so I think that this is going to be a lot harder to break if you are the Protoss.
Yeah, once that tank is out, along with the bunker, and then combine that with the Vikings, where you can't really utilize that War Prism, yeah, it gets quite difficult to break. However, I think Classic is just satisfied with just delaying that second Nexus, or sorry, second Command Center as long as possible, and just delaying the mining. But despite the amount of delay, unfortunately, Classic is still behind in the worker count.
Yeah, I kind of expected him to be able to do better, right? Given he has 2 Nexuses. Now, granted, he is going to force yet another liftoff on the Command Center. Maybe even get it down into burning territory, but I don't think it's going to be able to get a kill. Yeah, more Stalkers are going down. This is, I feel like the longer the game goes on, the better position Byun might be in. Simply because he's able to reposition his tank, produce a second one, remake his Marines, make a Banshee, etc., etc. So if Classic doesn't start pumping out probes anytime soon, it could get a little bit more dicey.
Yeah, what use is it if you have a second Nexus but you can't saturate it, right? So,
right.
Yeah, he definitely needs to probe up a little bit more. I think he's just banking too much on this attack here. And I feel like that might be a mistake.
Ooh, nice pick. Getting the low ground siege, that Immortal is going to try its best to gun down the tank, but not quite able to do so. Second Immortal does come up and finish the job. Stalkers are still in position. Honestly, this is not bad, coming out of like you're making do with what you have if you're Classic. And you are being a very, very big nuisance to Byun. But these 2 Banshees are out on the field. Yet another tank is going to try to siege up on the ramp. With every additional tank that comes out, it's going to get harder and harder for the Protoss to keep a presence on the high ground.
Alright, looks like Classic might want to start retreating right now, because without the War Prism, without the Observer, I think, yeah, he might just need to... Oh no.
Ooh, this is a huge, huge catch. Obviously, having a split on the Stalkers might be beneficial in some cases, but not in this one. All that ends up happening is the Marines get to pick off an Immortal and a bunch of Stalkers pretty much for free. So that was a very clean breakout by Byun. Looks like he's going to be confident enough to at least scout onto the low ground, see what's up, see what's going on. But who knows, maybe Byun, if I were Byun, I might feel confident enough to go for a push.
Yeah, especially since Stim is about to finish now. Once Stim is done, if he can kind of amass enough Marines, he can kind of just target fire on those Immortals and Stalkers, and looks like he is going to get at least one Immortal. Man, what is this game?
Yeah, this is getting pretty interesting. Now, I do like this move by Classic, following up with the charge on the Twilight Council. Because at this point, Stalkers, they really aren't going to cut it. You need something that's a bit more deadly to the Marines.
Yeah, Charge Lot does tend to do well against Marine tank composition, so he recognizes that that's exactly what Byun is going for. So, yeah, it should serve him well, but the question is, will he have enough Charge Lot to break through Byun's forces? there's still going to be a lot of tanks on the back. Raven to kind of maybe throw down some auto turrets or anti-armor missiles. So we'll see how Byun wants to engage and when he wants to attack. But in the meantime, looks like he will send at least one Banshee. Now, does that Banshee have cloak? Nope, no cloak on there, but should be able to at least pick up some probes.
That's right. It's gonna get a scout off, see that the third nexus is building, and I don't know. I feel like if I were Byun, I'd be feeling pretty confident right now. You know, able to possibly go for a push, but yeah, looks like that's not gonna be the case. I like that Classic is leaving his army sort of out on the map. Actually, that proxy still is up. The proxy pylons, the gateway, and the robo facility are still up and running for the time being. I find that's kind of cute. But yeah, so these Stalkers and Immortals on the low ground able to just keep tabs and make sure that Byun is not moving out. So yeah, the question is, when does Byun move out, right? Because there's no way that Classic is going to be able to, you know, muster enough forces to actually go for an attack himself. What he needs to do is catch up economically, because he's not even up there in terms of the worker count either.
Yeah, I feel like after maybe these initial 2 to 4 medevacs, I think that might be a good time to just go across the map. It should align with his concussive shells that he's currently researching. So by the time that he reaches Classic's base, he should have that upgrade completed. So yeah, I think this is actually not a bad time for Byun to start moving out, but it looks like he wants to at least clear out this proxy area with the proxy gateway and robo before he goes across the map.
Byun is, of course, being very, very cautious, right? We do see, of course, the third command center building on the high ground. By the way, I do like this Raven run by. Putting down a couple of auto turrets, being a huge nuisance. But yeah, looks like the bio is finally going to decide enough is enough. Time to break out, take care of the proxies. But it's funny because Byun, look at the sheer number of tanks, right? Like, just that alone would give this Protoss army a run for its money. But looks like Byun is happy to just sit back, you know, play it safe, play it cool, make sure that his production is up, he's got his upgrades, and he's happy with that. And honestly, I can't blame him.
Yeah, Byun looking to be in a very comfortable position, and so I think all he needs to do is just walk up across the map. I mean, it's his game to lose right now. He really can't screw it up, I don't think. He's got his +1. I believe that's armor. Oh no, I think that's a 1+1 armor finishing. Got the ghost transition upcoming as well, and really Classic doesn't really have too much. He is trying to work his way up to Templars with Storm, but he is only going to have a couple of Storms to shoot out. So I feel like maybe Byun actually playing a bit more passive than he needs to. I would love him to just move out and either harass, do some drops, or just go for the kill.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. I was just about to say, good for Byun for taking that third base, but then I looked at the main, and he's actually mined out of it. So essentially, Byun is on the typical Terran 2 base economy, right? He probably has mules. It looks like he's saving energy for scans, but if he did put them into mules, then he would have the economy of like 2.5 bases, basically, right? With the rate of mining that would happen with the mules. But aside from all of that, like you said, he's taking it really, really easy. And yeah, I'm totally with you, Snoopy. Like, if he was just a little bit more aggressive, he might actually just outright win the game.
Yeah, I think he's kind of giving Classic kind of a chance to come back. And I think, I still feel like Byun should be able to take it, but if he does end up losing, then I think one of the things that he can kind of not blame, but put the reason to as to why he lost is that the fact that he was just too passive and was playing way too defensive.
Right. We've got a huge Bioforce. We've also got Liberators already out on the field. The first 2 Ghosts are also being produced. The liftoff is forced, which is a nice move. A pretty decent set of Storms. Funnily enough, they are going to go down on the tanks because they are what are up front. But some excellent Storms from the back. They are going to force back the Byun, but, you know, again, I don't think it's enough, right? The sheer number of Marauders, the tanks in the back line, they are actually going to force the recall. Wow.
Yeah, there's just too much here for Byun, and he is going to march on forward to potentially his second victory to punch his way into the playoffs. He is 1-0 right now, so all he needs to do is another win, and he should. Yep, there he goes. GG, Byun. You will be our first finalist for the playoffs.